I'm going to start this evening with an apology, because I actually have to rush off because I had a prior engagement. Usually we have these in the mornings, and then I got shifted into the afternoon. So my sincere apologies for having to do that. Unless you want to whip round to cover the cost of my divorce, it's probably best that I do leave you. But thank you all very much for coming. It's really important, these events, because the future and the safety even of our football club relies on people standing for the trust board. And this year, as always, we've got some really excellent candidates and a wide range of skills that have always been welcome onto the trust board. There's lots of familiar faces. There's a bit of a rabble at the back. So all I would say is, well, thank you all to the candidates. It's great that we've got so many. We've got 3 missing, 4 missing. Matt Phillips lives in Manchester, so I think he's quite busy. He's on a stag do.
He's on a stag do, yeah.
Alistair Yates, I believe he's injured himself.
John's up in Manchester
John
University.
is also at University of Manchester, and Ewan has some, I believe he's babysitting tonight. So they've all written short sentences, one that's not quite so short. But seriously, thank you very much for coming. It's rewarding to see people come and support the trust and come and support the candidates. So hopefully this meeting will be better than the match we probably just watched. just
Not a high bar.
So no.
You might get an own goal from me.
So no fighting, no kicking, no gouging, no swearing this evening. We are being filmed, so.
I guess I get the role of referee then, don't I?
You get a referee. Thank you all very much for standing. We really appreciate it. And thank you all.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, guys, well, those who don't know me, I'm Phil Burton, I'm the Trust Secretary, and I have the pleasure or the enjoyment of organising the election process. So thank you all for attending. I'm very happy about that. Thanks to the candidates, A, for standing, and B, for attending. We've got a good quality batch of candidates today. I'm going to start with allowing each candidate making a sort of brief introductory statement. I have statements for those 3 of the 4 who aren't here, which I will read. One of them clearly didn't understand the word short. I will, forgive me if I do, I will read what they've written. So I will, and then basically we'll just move to questions to the floor. We had a series of questions by email from a number of our trust members, and they have been given to all of the candidates, and they have responded, and they all went onto the website this morning, so that if you're interested in their responses, there were some very good and interesting questions. And I personally haven't read the questions yet, because I'll do that before I decide who I'm going to vote for. And basically, as for voting, as like last year, it will be electronic voting. The system is set up to start sending out batches of emails following this meeting, so from about 6 o'clock onwards, you'll get an email. We have about 140 members who have had actual ballot papers. Closing date is next Saturday, but the system will send you reminders. Again, given that you're here, I'm sure you're keen to hear what the candidates have to say. So over to you. I'll start with this end, just a brief introduction.
Okay, yeah. My name's Nick Edwards. I grew up in Victoria Street, just across the road, and been coming up here for probably quite a long time. I don't look, it's like 50 odd years, on and off, but you know. And my view is about is joining the trust because it's not because it's a failure, because it's a success, and I want to be part of that. I've grown up here, and it's very much been part of my life. Exeter City, sons, fathers, uncles, and all that. I've been up there, and I think I've seen it develop into, you know, when you stand, you feel proud just being part of this club, and I like to give something back. I started at 16 on the railway as a young lad on the footplate, and worked my way through, and now manage about 1,000 people and budgets and all that. But I'm looking towards sort of running down towards the end of my career, so I've got quite a lot of time to devote to this, and I just throw myself at your mercy.
Okay, I'm Mick Sinclair, and I live currently in a little village called Carhampton near Minehead, which is about 42 miles away. And I became a Grecian about 15 years back when I was a student down here. And I fell in love with the city, the Grecians, the fans, everything about it. And I've remained a Grecian ever since. And I like to put some impetus back into the club itself. Questions need to be asked, I think personally, over certain things. Because I didn't want to be just a fan. I wanted to have some sort of more than an interest and impetus into what goes on behind the scenes as well. So that's it, really. That's just me.
Hi everyone, Elaine Davis. I've been a trustee for 8 years now. So I've got 1 year left to go to complete my 9 years. So that's why I'm here. I want to carry on doing what I have been doing, which is, so somebody this afternoon called me a jack of all trades, and I think that's all. It's true. I get stuck into whatever needs to be doing, but always supporters at the heart of it all. Thank you.
Good evening, my name's Pete Furley. I've been active with the city probably since Red or Dead campaign, remember those days? So my name's on the little board across there, and ever since I've got involved in various things with the city, being Grecian and Lion, or driving the players to the RD Hospital at Christmas time, working in the club shop. My main passion is community, and I would like to help the club develop links with the community, because I believe if you look after your own community, be it the fans or the general public, then we can gain strength from them. We can get extra customers, if you like, extra fans, extra revenue, but also build some good links with the community, and they can help us grow as a club. And my main passion is looking after our fans and supporters, and there are many ways we can do that, and I like to bring my expertise to help that and grow the fan base.
Thank you, guys. I've got some statements. I'm just going to read them verbatim because that's what I said I would do. So, John Beer, my apologies that I can't be at the Hustings with you all today. Unfortunately, due to other commitments, I can't make it, and as a result, will be missing my first game, COVID not included, in 3 years. I have answered the questions sent in online. They're now on the website. I would welcome any questions via any form of social media. I wish every candidate the best of luck. That was the short one. The middle one, that's the longest one. So Matt Phillips, good evening. Whilst I can't be with you tonight, I'm hoping everybody attending is in positive spirits after a good result. Well, that remains to be seen. That's a matter of opinion. If not, hopefully the quality of the candidates on the show will improve your mood. I'd like to start by apologising for not being here. It's really disappointing to be able to present myself in front of you and answer your questions. Almost any other weekend would have been fine, but I've been planning for a while to make it down. When I was COVID rearranged stag do to attend. I believe though my answers to the 5 questions raised tonight will be published online and available to read shortly after today's event. As for me, I've tried to be open about what I perceive my role would be on the trust board and my potential drawbacks within my manifesto. I'm very focused on the business side of the trust and believe that my skill set relating to risk management and financial due diligence will be particularly useful when the trust are called to review investment decisions from the club or business plans and strategy documents that get submitted. I'm an exile, something which I'm not afraid to hide away from. I'm standing in good knowledge of the requirements of being a trustee, having been previously elected to the trust board in 2015, would be committed to the role. Whilst this makes me less likely to be at the front of our community effort, the trust, in my opinion, is the cornerstone of our club and demonstrates values which any organisation should seek to instil: community, teamwork, passion and ambition. I'm running to help the trust achieve its goals in the hope that, in turn, the trust can support the club to fulfil its own potential. It's a privilege to represent the trust, and with that, I'd like to wish all the candidates the best of luck and hope that the hustings go well. If anybody's any follow-up questions, I'd be happy to answer them on appropriate forums such as Exeter or C. Alistair Yates. I'd like to apologise to members that I'm unable to attend the trust event today. I did advise the trust before the date was formalised and published. I'm also missing only my second game home and away this season from the Midlands. As a season ticket, I'm gutted and hope the team will have a great result today. They're really doing well this season and great to watch. In terms of the election, I'm delighted there's an election. I've answered in detail the great questions to candidates. I've lodged my first ever resolution linked to wealth management for this year's AGM to create some discussion in developing the fourth tier of the original trust objectives we started the trust. I hope this develops into a sustained plan to diversified income streams while protecting the considerable aspects of the trust. I've seen the real living wage resolution, fully support the motion as well. I've attended 9% of BOSS meetings last year, the only new candidate to do so. I've also attended previous Hustings on a Friday night in Exeter prior to Bradford away. This year I'm unable to attend this event in person due to business commitments, and I'm assured the candidate's a great election. Well done for stepping forward. I will support the Trust ideals, whatever the result of the elections. I will continue to attend and participate to develop and protect the Trust ethos of the city. So those are the statements which I've read. So at this point, I will move swiftly on to questions to the candidates. So please, somebody put their hand up and ask a question. Go for it, Lawrence.
Is the trust model more important to you than success on the pitch?
Start with Pete and move that way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Lawrence. Wow, that's a very good question to which can I have some time to think about. I think they go hand in hand, but I think inevitably what has to succeed is the stability of the club and to make sure the club stays in business. Speaking to fans of other clubs, they are very envious of the model we have. We have, at this moment in time, I think we're in a good financial position. The ground's looking fantastic. We've got a good manager. The academy's doing well. Community Trust is flying with what they're doing in the community. So there's lots of good things happening. Yes, I want to be in League One. Yes, I'd like to see us go to Championship. But I think the biggest thing to me is that we stay in business. And I believe for a club like Exeter, the supporters trust model is the supporters trust model is the only way for us to achieve that. Please don't ask me to ask that question again.
It's going to be a question of sport thing.
What happened next?
Yeah. So, gentle reminder, folks, if you put your phone in. Probably should have said that earlier, but
So, in summary, success on the pitch is important, but staying solvent to me is more important.
Okay, mate.
Well, I can't really argue that, can I? To me, the whole thing is together. I can't imagine Exeter City being owned by anyone else than all of us, because I've been involved for so long and we're so closely connected with it. And I think we can see success on the pitch growing as we get stronger. So it will be hard for me to tell the truth. If if anything happened to the trust, I'm not sure that I would feel the same about Exeter City, because it's a heart thing. It's a whole. That's all.
Okay, well, I think the two goals hand in hand. The trust and the performances go hand in hand, basically. So, as Peter, thank you, had said that we're doing really well financially, but I feel that sometimes the performances could be, shall we say, a tad bit better, and we've got room to improve. And there's no reason why we can't, at some point one day in Exeter's future, go and be an actual championship side. We've got the players, got the talent, so there's no real excuse. We just need to have self-belief. It's as simple as that. But as Elaine said, without the trust, perhaps it could be problematic. I don't know. It's sort of hard to say, really. But the trust is just as important as the squad itself.
Okay, thanks, Nick. I mean, coming fourth is very much, I can't know, is it really? But I have to say, I think they're complementary. They're not mutually exclusive. You know, the fact we can stand on the big bank and watch a game is a testimony to the club and to the trust and where we are. And you know, I would I've always said I'd much rather be a big fish in perhaps a smaller pond, you know, standing on the big bank with 3,000 or 4,000 people around us, than being like some other clubs, you know, which are struggling for money. And I don't see, you know, yes, people say, oh, my other team is so-and-so. They're not. My team's Exeter City, that's where I live. You know, I don't know, bad luck or not, the way you look at it, you know. But it's about being part of the community as well. You know, there was a question on the about moving out. And to me, you know, we have a say in this. You know, if it was a commercial run club with big owners and big backers, maybe they want to see us move out to some soulless place on the outskirts. May bring it in, but my view is this is about a club that's part of Exeter. There are some room for improvement. I know we watched a game today, which was fantastic, but it was at Exeter City playing football, which we haven't seen for 18 months, have we, on and off, you know. So I think that the model is great. I think they're complementary. I think the fact that we can, you know, the board and the trust can stand there and say we don't owe a penny. There's not many clubs that can say that, and it's a testimony to all the people that support the club. So yeah, I can't disagree with anything other people have said, but that's just my take on it from more of a heart thing, a head thing. But yeah, thanks.
Next question. Go for it, please do. Please do.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Sorry, Mick.
Yes, Mick.
Yes.
Thank you, Mick. I remember your manifesto,
Yes.
and which has expressed a lot of frustration. And from what you said already tonight, forgive me if I've misinterpreted you, but you're not happy with performances on the pitch, which is great. But how do you see your role as a trustee being able to influence what happens on the pitch? Is it possible?
Oh, anything's possible.
How
But-
would you go about influencing what happens on the pitch?
Well, it wouldn't be just me, it would be the rest of the trust members. If we could have some sort of say to the board and the manager about, say, certain players, because let's face it, not all players pull their weight at every match.
Yeah.
That's just fact.
You've seen it today.
Yeah. I mean, the performance was good today, but I still think we can improve on that.
That wasn't a good
Because-
performance today, but that we can argue
Yeah,
about that.
sure.
My point is, how would you influence? So, okay, it wasn't good. What are you going to do? Knock on Matt Taylor's door? What can the trust do? What can the board do, frankly, other than hire or fire the manager?
Wow.
And I
I
share your
think it's,
frustration, you can tell. I just wonder what we can do about it.
it's a good question, but I think the only way we can go to do what you suggest is to just discuss certain things with the manager and the board, see what can be done to improve things on the pitch. Because we've got a good squad out there, there's no doubt about it. But I mean, for me personally, I feel that sometimes the performances, or some of the performances, could be a bit more,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Half
could
the time,
improve, yeah. And no, and I do appreciate what you say, but I think the only way we can do something as trust members is to basically, I'm sure you would all agree here, is to really have a word with the manager, the board, see what can be done to improve things.
It's a worthy aim.
Yeah.
We should go.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to try and answer that question as well? Sorry, I'll start with the. Do you want to try it, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we you know, there are 4,000 managers out there today, aren't there? And we all have a view.
Yeah.
And some days there's good days and there's bad days. And I think, you know, I've always said in my job, you know, but people try to tell me what to do and drive trains. I said, well, I'll drive trains and you do this. You know, and I think sometimes that we need to give faith, we need to give the support to the board and the management about this. You know, we have a bad result, everyone wants to do something. We don't do that. You know, I think there's the stability behind the club. And the fact that the trust is almost independent of a big owner, you know, these big multinational owners that we don't want, you know, I mean, there's too much pressure on there. I think we can act as a buffer sometimes as well between the fans and the...
With the greatest respect, we're talking to the converted. We all agree the model is great.
Yeah.
You've said that, and I think most of us would accept that. The question is, how does that model, how does trust, how do we, because Mick made a point about influencing the performance.
Well, that's what I said, it's about influence.
You know,
It's very, very difficult to influence it,
exactly.
yes, but...
Let's acknowledge
Yeah.
that, let's be
Yes,
realistic.
I say, I mean, like I said, there were 4,000 managers today. I mean, there always are, aren't there? You know, and I think sometimes you have the faith in the people that are professionals and doing it. You know, but if we can give those people the support, the stability, the take away some of the threat, you know, the sword of Damocles hanging over these people if there's a poor result. It can't be helpful. You know, if you're a manager sitting there thinking the next game, you know, I'm only as good as the next game. So I don't think as a trust or as we can, professionally, we're there to talk about football. You know, what we are there to talk about is supporting those that know about football and help them make the difference, and support people. When the going's rough, it's not all about success, is it? Football and any sport, or life in particular. You know? So I think, you know, maybe slightly different. I mean, I think we can support them in making it a better team, but I don't think we can directly influence what the players do.
Right.
You know,
Difference of opinion.
yeah, slightly, yeah. We'll fall out of that.
Thanks.
Dave, you want to try? It's a good question.
It's a very good question. I think we, as Mick said, we have to support the professionals. You know, what do I know about football compared to Matt Taylor? Well, very little.
Yeah.
So, but try and put stuff in place to support him. Can we try and look at raising the extra revenue to increase his player budget? How we do that? That's another debate for 2 hours. But maybe look at that, and also reassure him, if things don't go right, let's support you, and help him through. Get people in to support him. Does he need to get a mentor or a mentor or another coach for him to talk to? So I think the board going to Matt Taylor and saying that's not good enough, I don't think that's the way. I think there are other ways to do it. He's the professional. Let him get on with that, but we can do things behind the background to support him, and hopefully get. You know, if he wants an extra £500,000, well, maybe that's what we can do to get him the player. Then it's down to him. And if he fails, well, that's a different matter then, isn't it? I think that's what we should be looking to do.
Thank you. Elaine? Ken Pennyworth?
Yeah, I agree. He is the professional. I wouldn't appreciate anybody telling me how to do my job, so I don't think we should. But what we can do, all of us, is what we're trying to do with Project 6000, which is to improve everything we do to increase our income so that we can give the manager the best possible playing budget, which will hopefully lead to the best possible team on the pitch, hopefully will lead to success. And do things that way. And I think our club has already built a reputation of being patient. I mean, look at Mr. Tisdale, how long he was here, for good or ill, wherever you fall on that. Matt was a player, he's come back. We've got a reputation for being patient and tolerant and fair, I think, with our managers, our coaches and our players, and I think we should stick by that. So I think it all comes back to our ethos. We want to treat, as supporters, we know how we want to be treated, and I think we should treat our employees the same way.
Thanks, Elaine. More questions? Go, stick your hand up, you're asking it.
I'd ask each of the candidates to sort of what they see should be the Trust's priority over the next 2 to 3 years. What you see as the Trust's priority should be.
Should we start with Nick this time? I will start with questions differently because it is easier when you go first.
Well, I think the two, I sort of said it out in the manifesto. One is, I think, is we need to sort of build on the success for the next generation coming through. I think that's the priority. I think there's always a tendency in any organisation when money gets built up, it burns a hole in people's pockets. And there's lots of things you can do which may not necessarily generate income, but I think it's preserving what money we've got and building on that. But I think there's that side of it, which is to look towards the next generation of city support as well. I think it's to widen the appeal of the football club as well, within the community. This is where we sit. We're in quite a diverse community in this area within Exeter alone, and I think the two-pronged attack I would like to see, or I would support, is one is we consolidate for the future. We make sure there's a trust and there's some money in the bank for the next generation coming through, but also make wise investments and a business plan for how we keep that money safe. The academy is great, we know that, but it's a bit like panning for gold, isn't it? You don't always find a golden nugget every season. So that money, can quite dwindle. It does dwindle in this sort of business. I think there's a real need to sort of preserve some of the income. to build on it. It's not easy, as Peter said. You know, there's lots of things we can do, and it may not seem a lot to people, but you know, a couple of grand for cans, it does make a difference. You can buy things that the club isn't going to buy. You know, but I think it's widening the appeal to the, you know, not just about 90 minutes on a Saturday every other week and a few midweek games. It's about making the club attractive to other people, you know, who may not see it. You know, I mean, it's big enough, you can't miss it as you walk by, can you? You know, but you know, it's about bringing people in. And it may be not on the Saturday afternoon, it may be because of the club or whatever, but we need to secure, one is to secure the future of the trust with our own, the income that's there being protected through sensible investments, and secondly, how we build on that to get more coming in. So yeah, I think that's pretty much my take on it, where we could be coming from.
Because we'll work that way down the line, so.
Yeah. Well, basically, as Nick had pointed out quite correctly, it's about the stability of the club itself. Pardon me. But as a supporters-run club, then obviously we should have more of a say in how the club is run. So once again, first of all, the financial stability of the club is very important. And two, the community within Exeter is just as important as well. I personally would like to see cheap admission tickets for everyone to make it more affordable for everyone. Because let's face it, football, even at this level, is expensive. And it's increasing as well. So what we need is obviously more people coming through the gates. And I believe personally that if the tickets were slightly cheaper, then it would stand to reason that more people would come through or even have new fans for the future, which I think would be absolutely fantastic for the club itself. That's it, really.
Elaine, do you want to?
Yeah, I think consolidate was the word I was going to use as well, because we coming up to 20 years of trust being in control, and we've had a, you know, some of us in the room have had a bumpier journey than others of trust ownership. So we sort of come up, go back. We've come to a place now where we have got equal representation on the club board. In fact, at the moment, the trust have got the majority on the club board. So whereas in the past, supporters would complain about the club board, and we were the buffer, the trust were the buffer between the club board and the fans. Now, if you complain about the club board, you're complaining about me and others. So that is a difficult place to be, and we've got to evolve through that, I think, to remain stable. And as others have said, we started because of a crisis, and that was easy for people to grab onto. I mean, lots of us were people that did get out the hose and dig things up because we thought we were going to lose our club. Now, I'm not saying we're complacent, but we feel more comfortable that the club is ours and that we've got a model that works. But we mustn't become complacent because things, you know, could go wrong. And I'm speaking for myself, my generation is getting older. We need to attract the younger ones who haven't got that impetus to join the trust and become part of it, who didn't have that fear and who have known relative success. So it's a big job. I think, above all, we need to encourage more people to join the trust. So the bigger we are, the stronger we will be, and the more we can support the club financially.
Well,
I know it's hard to be. It's always
all of that.
Yeah,
but I think the last 18 months has shown us that we need to be a little bit careful with our money. Who knows what's around the corner? Still not convinced that things are turning how they should be. So I think we have to be sensible. But I, like I said in my opening statement, big believer in community. And I think, as everybody said, if we really get ourselves into the community, that can help us enormously. Not in terms of just match day, but we have a fantastic facility that is standing empty 5 days a week.
It's
So,
not anymore.
not anymore?
No.
Okay, thank you.
We're working on that.
Okay, but there we go. But that's a way of getting more revenue in, more people involved in the club, and also hopefully by getting that we're welcoming new people who might not like football. Believe it or not, there are some people there who don't like football. I know you might find that hard to believe, but it's trying to make friends with those people, and maybe we can get them to a match, and maybe they'll come back to another match, or if not, they'll might hire a room. It's things like that I think we should be looking at. So yeah, hopefully that's my answer.
Can I add a bit on the end of that, Pete? Just to, not to get you to vote for me, but just to, reassure you that we actually are doing that. So I'm working with other people, and we are getting things in. So we've got a first birthday party coming on a Sunday, which we've never had before. We're having business meetings, and it's hard work because we've all been asleep for 18 months in the business. But we know that's what we've got to do, and we are trying to do it for the very reasons we've all agreed. So don't worry, but just, come and have your Christmas parties with us.
I've got at least 2 hands up, so I'll go at the back of the room first, and then I'll go to Randy. Somebody's happy.
Been in the bar.
He's going to Warsaw now.
With a statement, really. I think that many hustings, many fans forums, and I think probably every face in this room I've recognised from those events is the same people that attend each husting and each fans forum. So I'd like to ask each candidate how they think the trust can reach out beyond those people that are ones that always attend and always are visible to the wider audience and get the trust a broader church.
I'll start with spin that way, so I'll start with
Me?
yeah, go from yeah. Which end round?
Yeah. I mean, what is there to say, really? I think we've done so much as it is already for the fans. I think going back to what I'd said before about perhaps cheap admission tickets might be something, or events in the community, charity events, bands playing at the Vision Centre, things like that. But I think apart from that, we've done so good so far. There is probably room for improvement, but basically, what else can we do to actually improve that? I think we've done already good as it is already.
I'll go with Pete next.
I think using IT and the new technology, they're a pain in the butt. Zoom and Teams have proven a success. So we should be looking maybe, for hustings, maybe it should be on Zoom as well as in person. Or we have a separate one like that, and why can't we look at the supporters groups around the county and outside the county, maybe looking at, we have once a quarter a supporters group Zoom meeting to engage with those people who can't get to SJP on a regular basis. Technology's there, let's use it. I hate it, but let's use it.
Go on, Nick, you go last.
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in running social clubs before, and it's very, very difficult to get people to get involved.
Yeah.
Even if they're getting paid, they don't really want to do it, but for voluntary work, it's always going to be a nucleus of the same people often. But the last 18 months has shown us we can engage with people, albeit on a screen. I'm not a great fan like Pete of IT, but it's made it much easier to get involved. And I think sometimes maybe just opening we've got to look at the next generation. People live on their phones, don't they? They live on laptops. That's probably old school now, laptop, isn't it? I don't know. But they live on some sort of media thing which gets it there. Now, I don't see it as necessarily a millstone around people's necks. It's only the same people, but we do need to expand that. And I need to understand, I think, that you know, I don't know, things like Twitter, is it? I don't know, all these sorts of different things, you know, that people live on and live with. Maybe, you know, there's some more scope for there. I mean, there's lots of different platforms you can get out there, but I think that we need to target the people that use that sort of stuff, you know. It's, you know, if there was a Zoom meeting today on this one, how many people would have come? Probably the same people, because we don't like sitting in front of a screen for too long, you know. So I think there's it's about this next generation. I keep saying that, you know. I think, you know, we've always had Hustings. There's always been, you know. I think people want to come. If they want to come, they'll come, and not necessarily be able to force people to come. But we might give them an opportunity to sit there on their phone, on the train home, or in their front room, or whatever, if it's an evening, and engage. You know, that's the. But I think we need to sort of make it a bit wider. You know, there's been talk about, you know, expanding the club use and all that. You know, we lived on birthday parties at the club before. You know, if you didn't have them, you wouldn't survive. Members moaned, but you know, you could say, well, if you book a birthday party, you might get a free ticket or something. You know, there's things. There's a lot more. You know, it's not just about football. Sadly, you know, I think that we reflect the world today, don't we? You know, we just come out of a massive thing that none of us have ever lived through before. I don't think so. And we've got to understand there's some benefits, like we said, different ways of doing things. But I do think there's always an element of people that will want to support this. You know, they want to turn up on a 10 to 3 on a Thursday, on a Saturday, or a 4 to 8 on a, you know, Tuesday night, and watch a game of football, watch a team win. You know, be able to get a drink and all that. We don't actually want anything to do with the way the club runs or whether the support behind it. So I think to a point there's always going to be that element of people that we have coming through. But how we expand that, I think we've got to look at who we want to come through. You know, do you want to fill this room on a Saturday afternoon, or do you want to get another 200 or 300 people on a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting or something? So I think that was something. One of the things about IT in the manifesto is making sure that we explore. I don't necessarily embrace it, but explore what possibilities that will bring. Some sort of survey to see, you know, what people would come. You know, it may not work, but I think we have to accept there's always going to be a nucleus of people that want to support the club, whatever or whatever business it is, not just about football club, but yeah.
Elaine, do you want to?
Yeah. So I think, from my experience, it's always the same people. So if you go through life, the people that help at the playgroup are the same people that are on the PTA at school, that are the same people that give up their time for other things. Some people have just got it in them. So there's that. The other thing is that I think we underestimate without being rude, look around us. None of us are spring chickens in here. You come to a stage in your life when... I'm sorry to be rude. You know what I'm not being rude, but what's the word? I misspoke. Yeah.
Honest.
But there are times in your life when you have got more time to give. And although I agree with your question that we do need to widen it, in my experience, there are more people. I've been surprised. So I was on that engagement hub in town that we had for August, and I was surprised at the number of people that we're talking to, especially in a touristy time, and lots of people are on holiday, and engaging with them, and they say, oh yes, I'm a fan, I've been to Exeter, I've done this. And so there's a latent pool of people there that I think we just need to be more, to educate them more. I mean, they knew about the trust, they knew we were owned by our supporters, but lots of things they didn't know. And one or two I know, we got to come to a tour as a result of that. And just by walking around, maybe it was the magic of, like we all love the magic of SJP, maybe it was that, but also just interacting with the people like ourselves and learning more about it, we got through. I know you can't do that piecemeal with, individuals, but I think a bit of education or something, communication or films or whatever, just to spread the word, because we're all here because we know about it. We forget all the people that don't, or only know a little bit. So we've got to be more proactive, I think.
I'll go with Andy, then I'll go with
No, thanks very much. No, it follows on actually, it's about education, mind. So the Trust, as a club, we're in a very enviable position in that we're not owned by some multi-millionaire and whatever, and the fans do have a genuine involvement with the club. With that, for the Trust, comes a huge opportunity to educate fans of what it takes to run a football club, not just Exeter City, but it's just in general. The events with the European Super League last year and all of that, I think shows it. My thing is about how do you educate fans, not just of this club, but just in general, about what it costs to run a football club. And yes, I recognise commercial confidentiality and personal confidentiality and club records and balance sheets and that, but just to educate what it costs to run a football club. This event now is costing us money. How do we show what it means, and then how potentially fans can contribute either more or at least understand it?
Could I start off this one?
Mm.
Yeah, okay. I think that publicity in the programmes would be a good start. I think for the younger kids that wouldn't quite understand how it actually works, what you've just mentioned, that would be perhaps slightly difficult, but I think in general, as you correctly just said about what it costs to run a club, any club, perhaps that could be mentioned in, say, schools, college, in the universities. Anything to do with Exeter, the whole wider circle of things. But I think a good start would be some mention of those sort of things in each programme before any match would start. So that's personally what I would do.
Pete, do you want to go next?
There's no harm in letting people how much it costs, what our water bill is, what's our lecky bill. You know, you can let people know what those costs are. How many match day stewards are employed on a match day? You know, is it 80 times whatever? If that's the figure, then that's a big cost which people don't understand. And whether you've got 1,000, 2,000 or 5,000, you still need 80 stewards. So it's, as you say, it's letting people know that type of cost and what steps the club are doing to offset that expenditure. Yeah, you're right. Let people know.
Elaine, do you want to go next? I'm sad that you probably have the advantage because you know.
Well, I was going to say I don't know that. I don't know that question about that. But I think I can see a sort of series in the programme coming up now. I think that would be an excellent idea because I mean, the thing at the AGM coming up about the real living wage coming up for the second time. The first time it came up when it was explained, I didn't understand that for some people the real living wage wouldn't be an advantage because they were working just on a Saturday and it would affect their benefits, stuff like that. So it's not black and white. So I think that's an excellent question and a good answer. Just the basic things, you know? Yeah, can't add to it.
We've now got a borehole.
Yeah.
So how much is that saving the club? I mean, once you've paid for it and all that, what's the ongoing saving going to be for that? That would be nice to know.
Yeah. I think we were told that on the club board when we were asked for the money to do it, and maybe it's our fault that we didn't project forward and think that would be useful for supporters to know. So take that on board if I'm elected again.
Yeah, I think I again coming forward, it's very difficult to. I mean, but my view is there are two things really. One, I think most people know footballers and the staff wages are what they are. You know, you might ask a kid at 5 and you would say they owe millions, but we know that. And that's personal, you know, that's it. But it's the overheads of what costs, you know, if you said to somebody, what does it cost to put a match on today? You know, and as Leah, you know, if it's 1,000 come or 5,000 come, it's the same overheads. And that's one of the biggest things I don't think people realise in the business is that irrespective of the numbers through the gate, the overheads pretty much remain the same. And to me, the borehole's a great thing. You know, we have massive roofs up here, you know, that could be used as solar panels. I mean, just to review, you know, that the other thing about information is as well, you know, there's certain things you can't share under GDPR, but you know, there's lots of boards up there. You know, did you know it costs us whatever it costs to run a football match on a Saturday afternoon? As they walk in through there, you know, do you know in the programme, you know, what our electricity bill is for the year? How can we, you know, and I think these are things that I don't think people quite understand. They realise you've got to pay for footballs and boots and, you know, the Saturday afternoon stuff and the weekday nights. But, you know, there's people that work in there every day of the week, aren't they? You know, they still have the place open, you know, and I think those are I think a lot of it is education, but making it's these, what do you call it? Not Snapchat, I don't understand, but like a tweet thing with so many letters, just a simple graphic. Did you know? You know, as people walk by, you know, what it costs. So, and an equal sign that says, that's 2,000 fans, or whatever, you know, just something very simple that might think, Jesus Christ, that is a lot of money just to, before we pay the players, you know, and everything. So, I do think a lot of it is about, and I put it in my thing, about information, what you can share, not necessarily, you can't share everything, but I think the things you can share, we should, particularly if it could be shocking or raise an eyebrow or two when someone stands and says, Jesus, that's a lot of money, you know, whether 2,000 turn up or 20,000 turn up, you know. So I do think there is an element of that which we could improve on, or we could as a club. And I think with football and business in general, people take it for granted. They come to see a football match, they don't realise what it takes.
What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, well, no, I think Pete's and other suggestions have been it is about the. I think one of the suggestions was how much does it cost just before a ball's been kicked to open the match up, the ground up, to make it fit ready for a match, regardless of the players' wages. I don't care about that. No. That is what it is.
We accept that.
It's your fixed costs. What are your fixed costs? We know it's going to cost this many £1,000 a year to turn the lights on.
And it's those. Today, if the weather had been really bad and the game had been called off, you've still got all that overhead and not necessarily any of the.
Yeah, well that's why a lot of clubs actually made a bit of money in COVID.
Yeah,
well, it is. They're losing less money than they would be.
But yeah, and I think that's where my thing comes from. It's just those figures. Did you know it cost? It's 100,000. I don't know what it is. £100,000 before a ball's been kicked, and that's why we need your £2 a month and all the other bits.
You should be up here.
You should be.
Heard a lot of you guys talk about the trust and community. You've heard how much work CCT do in our community. What could the trust be doing that's unique to them, as in you can always collaborate, but it's unique to the trust that isn't, I wouldn't say stepping on people's toes, but something we can do as our own entity within the community?
Yes, I'd go. Nick, go first.
Yeah, I mean, it's as you say, it's a very difficult to be already stepping on what people are already doing, you know. But I think there's a school down the road. I used to go there. It's you know, why have we ever been in there? You know, do we, you know, say an afternoon, 30 minutes to about a football club, which is just up the road, or you know, the wider students, for example. We've got a student. I mean, how many people actually come from those flats today and come and watch a football match? I don't know, but it's probably maybe 500 or 600 people in there. You know, we may be able to, they might be able to see it. I don't think they can see it from their windows, can they? But I think if you've got maybe 5% of those people coming on a semi-regular basis, you know, I think there are a lot of people that are around and they're almost captive, aren't they? You know, in schools and colleges and almost some of the workplaces, the sponsors. You know, do they know? You know, the sponsors. Do the people that work for them know about what goes on? You know, maybe you know, you might take a player or someone along to a school, and you know, I think it's that visibility and that actually also asking what we can do for them. You know, what is it? You know, do you want to use the room for a meeting, or do you want to? You know, there's a lot of things that go on already. We know that, you know, and it's great stuff, but there's always something more. And I think, you know, we're going back to the community stuff is making it part of that. And as I say, I would start at schools probably around here, you know, so junior schools, get them to be, you know about football, and then possibly, you know, we have I mean, I don't know, we may have done it actually on Freshers Week or something like that. Is there anything from the city do for that? You know, do we go up there and say, you know, is a game of football every 2 weeks? Want to come along? You know, if you live there, you might get a discount or something. I don't know. I mean, there's lots of things to do, but I do think, you know, that there are a number of captive, not communities, but sort of organisations around, you know, including schools and things like that. But you, I mean, if you, I've always said, if you get 1% out of the 100%, it's 1% more you didn't have in the first place. You know, it's not failure, it's low aim is the thing that pisses me off, excuse my language, but it is, you know, if we try and we fail, fine, but if we don't try at all, you're never going to get people into that. And I do think, you know, it's you know, I don't know whether kids kick a ball around in a playground anymore as much as they do. They probably sit on phones or on other things, you know, but that's why I started to come up. I could see the lights and I used to kick a ball around. So it's maybe going back to where we were a few years ago, well, a lot of years ago, I'll be honest. But, you know, where football was a simple thing, you know, and it's, you know, they may see the Sky stuff and they may see on the TV and all these big money, but it's not really about that to me. This is about, you know, people at this level, you know, if they then go on to watch it on, fine, you know, but so I do think there's some areas we could probably improve on with engaging with sort of almost captive markets.
Well, where do I start?
Yeah.
Briefly, okay. I think there has to be partnership working, but also there has to be standalone stuff, the Supporters Trust. CCT do, I'm biased because I've worked for them for 6 years, so I'm very biased. But they do go into schools, and they do a hell of a lot in schools. I think we should be looking at some of the people who haven't renewed their subscriptions. Let's go and find out why aren't they back in the Supporters Trust. Also, I think we should be looking at, especially our older members of the Supporters Trust, how we can support them. Can we work these Devon Grecians, North Devon Grecians? What can we do with those people to go and support them? A lot of older people still reluctant to come out because of COVID. I'm finding this in my work I'm doing. They are just frightened to come out that door. So let's get them to a East Devon Grecians meeting. Let's get them to a North Devon Grecian meeting. Let's talk to them. Let's make them feel safe. Let's make them feel welcome. I know there's talk of a social cafe here, but I'm not quite sure where we are with that at the moment.
Still talking.
But I would like to have a social cafe here in Exeter for Social Supporters Trust members, so they know on a Tuesday, for example, at 10 o'clock, there'll be a warm welcome, a cup of tea and a biscuit, and a chat. If they want to talk, fantastic. If they don't, they still know there's a warm welcome here. There's a lot we can do, and it's rolling our sleeves up. It's talking to people. It's getting in contact with those people we haven't heard of. Working with Senior Reds. Phil's here from Senior Reds. Well, how can we use his expertise to help develop that relationship? How can we get the people who haven't been coming along to come along? Do we actually need to go in and visit them in their own home to ask how it's going? What can we do to help? How can we get them to the SJP? Are they struggling to get to SJP? So let's look at a travel plan for them. Can we see them up? Can we have a match day buddy to get them from a remote village, for example, into Exeter, or even get the 55 bus from Exmouth? Can we get someone to help them get on the bus and get to Exeter? So I think it's things like that we need to be looking at. Working with ECI, working with I work for Age UK, so working for Age UK, can we team up with those people and can we pull on their experiences? What works? Can we work with them and get people back into the ground? Maybe work non-match day to begin with, so it's not so intimidating with them, and then get them back to a match. But I believe it's partnership working will help us achieve that, and there are a lot of partners out there who want to help us and want the same thing. Firm believer of not duplication.
Mm-hmm.
That's just wasting time and resource. So let's pull together and work together.
Yeah, Pete's just pinched my word. I don't think we should duplicate what other people are doing, because knowing a bit about CCT, what they do is great. We should support them, and we do support them, and let them get on with it. But I think it's all those ideas you said, Pete, are great, but remember that when you work for CCT, you were employed to do those things. If you're in the Supporters Trust, you're a volunteer. So you're at work or you've got other commitments, you might not be able to do that. So I think what the trust could do is the trust could put their support into the local groups, into the EDGs, into the NDGs, and help that way. Otherwise, we're going to be really, really thin on the ground, and we can't overstretch ourselves because we're just burnt out. So all those ideas are great. So if we had in here, I've been working with ECI, the Exeter Community Initiatives, and they are going to use this place as a hub for their community builders. But hopefully, if it's in here, we can get somebody in here and we can convert them while they're here, because when they've been round and seen our rooms, they are amazed, and lots of, give them a little tour. They don't know about us. So that's a way of reaching out to people too. So I'm agreeing with both the gentlemen here, but I think we've got to respect those that can do it better than ourselves, and not try and do everything ourselves, because we're not always the best person to do it, but we can support those that are.
I think there's nothing more to be said, really. They've said it all. I think perhaps the players can get involved a bit more, perhaps, in a way, more fans forums, that sort of thing. Get newer fans coming down to the park, which would be nice. Apart from that, yeah.
Mike, you were waiting patiently for your question.
Yeah. So my question, it picks up on a lot of strands that we've talked about this evening. It's more to do with what the trust actually is, or what you may think it should be. Now, to me, like there's obvious parts of what the trust, and we talked about tonight. So the trust is the owner. So basically, it has seats on the board, so it can have an impact on club decisions. It provides funds, so there's a fundraising thing there. It has governance, so it's got a responsibility as well. It's community minded, and so is the club, so that's good. So a lot of things work hand in hand with each other. But to me, danger's too strong a word, but where that gets muddied is, where does the trust end, and where does the club begin, or where does community begin? And the thing that is distinct to the trust is its membership. And we talked earlier about how we go forward from this and get more younger people involved and whatever. And we were talking about education, communication, and Zoom meetings and stuff like that. Now, in the early days when I came onto the trust in 2003, there was a huge imperative, because the club was in peril, and we needed to make money, and lots of things needed fixing. So there was a huge thing there that people would roll their sleeves up, get involved in, see an instant reward, take pride in it, and because of that they joined the club, and then there was a real two-way thrust, and that was great. It's all well and good now talking about educating and putting information out, but what do the people here think? If you were to sell the trust to new members, how would you describe what the trust does, and how it's distinct from the other parts of the club and community trust? And what, if any, ideas would you put forward to regain that sense of interaction and reward, other than just telling people what we do and would you like to become involved? That's it.
Elaine, do you want to go first with that?
Not really. I think we've got to share more. We've got, for instance, the shirts. The shirts are red and white stripes, we know. We could and we should, I think, involve supporters more to say A, B or C, which do you like? It's a simple thing, but it makes you feel part of it. The surveys, we did a survey, I can't remember when it was, but I know there's another survey in progress. And they're okay, but it's going to be another big document that is going to take you some time to work through. I think little and often might be the way to go, so that you have you're invited to give your opinion. I know I don't do social media. We're a terrible lot, aren't we, on this? But they do give a lot of their opinions, don't they, people on social media? But I think that we have to once you're in the trust, it's easy to forget because you know, and you're in all these meetings, you know what's going on. Think back to when we were on the big bank, and which is why I got here in the first place, because I got frustrated and wanted to change things. And we mustn't forget that and be complacent. So it's a hard question, Mike, and I should have to think about it a bit more. But my heart's in the right place.
No, don't forget that without the club, there wouldn't be a trust. So the two is hand in hand. So even as you suggested that the trust was sold to other members, the whole idea is that the trust has to represent all the fans of Exeter City. So we're all involved in some sort of way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I give you my answer on Thursday when I'm back in, please?
Sorry, there's no ducking the question.
Yeah.
That's a good one. It's a really good one.
It's a really good one. I think the trust has proven how successful it has been in managing the club. It's given stability. It's given success. I mean, we are successful. Might not think it, but we are successful. We've got money in the bank. We've got great ground, and it's showing to people it can be done, and we can move forward and grow and do better. And the club is not just for football; it is for other things as well, as discussed.
Mm.
And I think that's really important. It's just not for football. And yes, football comes first, but we can't forget the other things. Those other things will bring greater success as well. I don't think we should be just judged on football. It's what we give back to the community.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the history, I'm a great believer in history and corporate memory and things like that, because probably nobody under about 20 or 25 would remember why the trust was formed and what dire straits the club was in. So maybe, you know, people who are under that age come up here and they see the club, you know, it is a success, as Peter says. I don't think well, anybody says, what happens on the pitch? As a business and as a club, it is. But it doesn't hurt to remind people of why it came about. And I think that's probably, I don't know how you do it. I mean, that's another thing, whether you do it through social media or another one of my favourite boards up on the wall or something, you know, but just to remind people of why it came into being and why it's become a success because of the members and about where the club starts and where the trust ends. I think we sort of said it all the way through. It's very complimentary, you know. If and I don't think it would, but if it got too big, it would lose its reason for being, you know. It would. This was about to save the football club, wasn't it, when it came about? That's what it was for. You know, now it's not saving the football club, but it's supporting the football club. And I think, you know, there's a little element of, you know, if you actually told people of, you know, under 20 why we're sitting here tonight and why we're in this ground where we are, I doubt anyone could ever actually answer that. And good luck to them. They're young, aren't they? They don't need to know that. But there's always that danger of that history being lost and then the support not coming through. So I think it's quite important. It's the boundaries are quite clearly defined.
I think it's difficult though, isn't it? Because if you think back to when I was young, it is a bit like those jokes where the Yorkshire people say, I remember when I was 5 and I was up the mines or something. Because if somebody older tells you how bad it was in the olden days, you don't really want to hear, do you? So I think the Super League, Super Six, whatever it was, did us a great favour, didn't it, really? Because it brought home to everybody what we've known for ages, that we're in charge of our own destiny and we're better for it. So I think it's a mixture. We've got to remember the past, but, you know, build on the zeitgeist we've got now.
Also, I think it's important to me that we don't go back into a millionaire owner. That's why I'm standing. Yeah. And probably why all these people stand. Sorry?
Because you're not a millionaire.
Sorry, Peter.
That's all right. But I think that's why we're all standing. Yeah, that's why all 8 of us are standing.
Yeah.
It's important that we keep the Supporters Trust model going, whether it's us or whether it's somebody else, but we keep it going and we can't go back to being owned by one man.
No.
I think that's,
Or woman.
or woman. Sorry, yes. Or I don't know.
An individual, basically.
By an individual. Thank you. Yes.
Any more questions? Thank you, guys. More questions? Go for it,
I wanna
Sharon.
hope
If
this
you
is
stick your hand up,
quite
you're asking a question. You might just be scratching your nose, but you're still asking a question.
Okay, so scenario, we sell Archie Collins to West Brom for £3 million tomorrow. If it was up to you, what would you recommend to the board that you do with the money? And if you want to split it, which part of Exeter City would get the most?
That's a good question, Sharon.
Yeah.
Yes,
Nick,
yeah.
go for it.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, the team, the squad is always the most, if you haven't got that in a football club, haven't you? So, to me, if it was 3 million, I'd be saying that there's at least 2 million to strengthen the squad or support the squad, you know, through that. But let's not, I would say, squander it all in one go. You know, that money is also for your future as well. So put some of that money, maybe a formula, maybe a ratio, I don't know. But I would always support spending the money on the squad or strengthening the squad. Not necessarily didn't need it. Maybe, you know, it probably does, but you know, not for the sake of it. But I think sometimes, you know, we look at it, there's money burns a hole in people's pockets. They don't want to spend it on things, you know. And as I said at the beginning, to me, there's a need to invest in keeping this going, you know. So yeah, it's about people playing football, isn't it? So the bulk of that money should go to the squad and used wisely, you know. But I think there should be a ratio of that's available to support that, the ongoing trust, you know, with whatever it is, whether it's just an investment or we don't just waste the whole amount, you know, or whatever. So yeah, I would always support the bulk of it, you know, the lion's share going to the team, but mindful of the money that, you know, it doesn't grow on trees, and you know it doesn't come easily either, does it? You know, so next year we may not sell something for 3 million, so that million in the bank or wherever it is in the investment is still there.
I'm just going to go that way across.
Yeah.
Next, go for it.
Okay. If we sold Archie Collins for 3 million, I would say, well, how about £4 million instead? Right? So we'll probably have half that amount on strengthening the squad, as Nick had suggested, another half of improving St James's Park altogether. Because my idea is that hopefully one day in the future we'll have the Adam Stansfield stand as one complete, fully length stand that joins the big bank. And I think many fans, if not all of the fans, would share that opinion. To have a complete St James's Park stadium.
Right?
Can I just answer the two candidates that have said squad?
Yeah.
Define squad.
Well,
the first team, or do you
No, the whole,
wider,
right the way down to the
squad,
juniors,
right down to
yeah,
the
because
youth?
Absolutely.
that's the next 3 million quid, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you support that, you know, if you, I
It's
mean,
also
you,
worth remembering how the transfer
Yeah.
is structured as well.
yeah. You know, maybe further income if they move on, won't they, or things like that, you know. But I think it's not just about 11 players or 12 or whatever, it's about the next generation down, the next tier down, you know, right down to the first level that are on the books, if you like, you know, because they're the ones that are going to provide you, hopefully, with the next £3 million player, aren't they? Just to spend 3 million quid on somebody, you know, in today's football, what would you get for 3 million realistically? Not a lot, would you? I suppose, you know. But to put some of that money into the next generation of players coming through would provide that opportunity again. For I think it's almost like recycling all the time, you know, making sure that money goes in to support where we are, and you know. But yeah, I mean, if you need a player, you know, we need someone at the front, yeah, you spend it, but. You know, it's in football terms, 3 million is not a million. It's not a fortune, is it?
Isn't I might be wrong, but isn't that what we're doing now?
Yeah.
Because you're talking about 2 million out of 3 million to the squad.
Yeah.
Don't we give a third to academy, a third to first team, a third for other projects
Probably,
as we
yeah.
speak? So I think that's what we're really doing. The thing that always interests me that I think needs factoring in is if we want promotion, and we all do, then obviously you got to League One. Your costs are bigger. If you want to buy players, you want to pay players. So any factoring in, you know, if you're looking ahead, you want to factor more into the first team budget in terms of just pure pounds than you do in the league that you're in now. If we get what we all want, then that's going up.
Yeah, so this is a very real question that we've been talking about. But if we sell Archie Collins for £3 million tonight, we won't get £3 million tomorrow. will get about £250, £1,000 a year because it's all staged. So we won't have a load of money to spend. And I'm afraid I don't agree with giving all that money to the playing budget straight away, because look at Northampton last year, or other clubs, they go for promotion, they give the majority of their money to the playing budget, they get promotion, they can't afford to keep those players that are already on that level because they've gone up a league and then they want even more. Some of them move away and they come down again. Now, I know that is a way of some clubs surviving, but I would prefer to be more prudent and, yes, improve the budget. But if it was a case of, I don't know, a lottery win, so it wasn't staged and we did have the money, the first thing I'd do would be to sort out the training ground. Sort out OTR, this building, so that we will recoup the money, because the bar will be better, the facilities will be better, everything will be better. So more people will come in, we'll increase money, then we'll get money to go on the pitch. It's a virtuous circle. But we always keep, this is the old-fashioned housewife, we always keep cash in the bank so that if anything happens, like COVID without furlough, or like the olden days when there was no money coming in, we can still afford to pay our staff, pay our bills. That's what the trust is doing at present. It's keeping money safe, like an overdraft, a sort of virtual overdraft, to help the club if that happens. So we've got to temper our ambition with prudence, I think, and that is hard. And I think most of us understand that, because, like Mike said, when we sold Matt Grimes, that was the beginning of our sort of success of income. We did say a third. And though in the boardroom then it wasn't exactly a third, but that's what, if somebody would say, well, why don't we do this? Somebody would pipe up third. Oh yes, And I think that's got out to the supporters. They expect us to be careful. It's your money. It's our money, isn't it? After all, it's our money. We want it to be looked after.
I think there's an element of education there, Elaine, like you said before, that a lot of fans think that if you sell a player for £3 million, you have £3 million in the bank the next day.
Yeah.
And why aren't we spending it?
It does need to be said.
Educating the people that you don't get it in that way, you get it in instalments.
In the same way, when we were, without saying too much, when we have been talking recently in the club board about spending money on the Cliff Hill, I asked the question, well, how do we pay for it? Will it be staged payments, or will we have to pay X million all in one go? So they go on, have to have another meeting now to find out how much we actually will need. So it works both ways.
It's a bit on playing budget, of course, and that filters down right throughout the system. I think this OTR needs a bit of love. Needs a lot of love, actually. So, and I think we can, if we get that right, that can generate a lot of income for us. And also, I think we need to invest in our non-playing staff as well.
Yeah.
I think we need to look at how we're looking after our non-playing staff, and show them some love. They work bloody hard, and if it wasn't for them, especially over the last 18 months, I think what state we'd be in, what state the buildings would be in. There's a lot of work going on there which is not recognised, and I'd like to invest in them.
Yeah. Agreed.
Elaine, can I propose a little bit more about your answer? Were you saying that the priority should be the infrastructure, training ground and similar, and then the team?
No.
It sounded as if you were saying almost, and I'm sure you're going to correct me, that we shouldn't spend on the team and get promotion because we wouldn't be able to afford to keep up those players' wages. So therefore we don't buy those type of players and we don't get promoted.
I think it's a fine line. You don't know, do you, which players when you buy them, that you think like the marquee players, how successful they're going to be. I think you've just got to be sensible and do the best you can with the money you've got and share it. But long-term investment, like the training ground, where we're going to grow more players, or OTR, where we're going to get the income back, has got to be balanced with supporters in the ground who want to see the stuff on the pitch.
Exactly.
And I'm hoping that at the moment we've got the balance just about right. Because especially with this new crop of players, I hope we are. I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing. And you've got enthusiasm, which will bring people back. But we bought players in the past that haven't quite worked out. So it's a bit of a gamble, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So I don't know is the answer.
Budget also,
Sorry?
an unknown exponential as well.
Mm.
It's all very well to say you have a new player and you buy them. Unless you know the details of their contracts and whether they have a bonus clause for getting promotion or a parity clause in their contract with the highest paid player in the club, each step up you make, those triggers can make a player that you bought at one stage much more expensive. And again, I think that's perhaps something that we as fans don't necessarily understand.
No, and also on their contract, when you sign them, how much you're willing to give away when they move on. So we leave that to, like we were talking earlier about what influence we should have. We've got people that can work that out, and that isn't the likes of me, although I'm very interested to know, like all of us.
Go on, Andy, if you have your hand up, you can answer a
No,
question.
thank you. No, it's a very quick one. And it's, so all 4 candidates up for election. I wish you all the best of luck. If you're elected, what would you consider being success for your tenure as a trustee?
Being elected for a start, which then I can hopefully have some impetus into me being elected by giving not just 100% back into the trust and for the fans, but to see the success that we deserve on and off the pitch. More community spirit for a start, more say in what goes on in the board. I think everything that we've basically covered, it can be improved perhaps in many ways, but it takes all of us as one big effort to do just that.
Pete, you want to go?
Engaging with the community that we're not engaging with. I think that will be difficult. I can't guarantee you success because they've got to buy into it. I will try to do that. Also, I think when I was talking to people about trying to nominate me, sorry Pete, my membership's lapsed. So maybe go and talking to those people, why is it lapsed?
That was your first cue. Aren't you converted it?
So I did get one to sign up straight away.
That's okay then.
But why has it lapsed? Why haven't you renewed? Let's go and have some personal conversations. It's not a telling off. Just out of interest, why haven't you rejoined? What would it take to get you to rejoin? So it's that, if I increase that a little bit. So yeah.
I don't. From what information I get, we don't lose that many people. Have you just been unlucky?
Maybe it's the friends I'm mixed with, or people who say they're my friends who aren't really my friends in reality.
Nick, do you want to go?
Yeah, it's quite easy to sit and be glib like a politician and promise the world, isn't it? And it's not that. I mean, I would personally see successes if nothing changed and we just carried on, because I would integrate it into what is already a successful thing. And I said at the beginning, I'm not joining this because it's not successful, because it is successful, But I think one of the things I would like to see is that possibly a greater visibility for information for the wider fans to see how a club's run. I think totally agree with what Pete says about the community, to see, maybe see a small increase on the terraces. I think. It's a bit like eating an elephant, isn't it? It's you can eat it, but at a bit of time. You know, there's no good just sitting here and saying, yeah, I want to see 10,000 people back in the ground and we're in the championship because what we do as a trust. You know, you got to know your limitations as well and how you support that. But my view, if I was successful and I got on and got kicked off the next time, so at least I looked back and said, it didn't get any worse because of me, you know. But there were more people there. We made it clearer in the ground about it. The facilities were used by more people. You know, it'd be great to think that, you know, 50% of people that came to St James's Park weren't necessarily football fans. You know, they come up to use it as a thing. So it's no good me sitting here and saying, yeah, I want to see us in the championship. I want to see 10,000 in the whole ground we build and all that. It's more incremental changes and making it and listening to what people have said. You know, you see it on, like, you know, we don't get told anything. We'll tell them. We'll put along walls. We'll change the posters each match day or whatever. A little bit of information coming up. You know, so yeah, I'm not going to change the world. These guys know that they're far better at what I am. You know, I just like to give some support and see an incremental difference. You know, and think, you know, that if you come off, that the place is a little bit better than it was when you went on.
Yeah, it's I got the wrong end of the stick at the beginning. I was going to say success for me would be surviving 9 years, because it will be. But I think, as far as the club goes, I think success would be, for me, for fans from other clubs, and I'm lucky enough to meet other directors, to say, you know, how do you do that? Or like today, so I was talking to the Walsall guys and we were talking about gambling. So, you know, we won't have any ads for gambling on our shirts. And that was a really, really hard sell at the time. And now he was beginning to say that. How do you do that? You know, what? And I think the sort of ethos or the principles that we stand for, Mike, we know, are beginning to filter out a little bit. And I think if we can build on that, people say, or, you know, when you meet people say, oh, you're my favourite second club. Well, you know, we want to make everybody have those things. I know it's a bit airy-fairy, but that's what gets me going.
I mean, that did appear to be quite a good closing question, unless anybody's got any desperately more questions to ask that they feel they haven't asked. Right, okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Round of applause.